Hi there, and welcome to the Skylight Books author reading series. If you'd like to learn more about us and our many upcoming author events, please visit skylightbooks.com, where you can browse our inventory, buy books, and join our Friends with Benefits Club. You can also follow us on Twitter, Tumblr, and Facebook. To speak to a real live bookseller like me, please call 323-660-1175. Thanks for your support, and enjoy.
We're always happy to have Mattilda at the store. Yes. Right? Mattilda Bernstein Sycamore is the award-winning author of a memoir and 3 novels and the editor of 5 nonfiction anthologies. Her memoir, The End of San Francisco, won a Lambda Literary Award, and her previous title, Why Are Faggots So Afraid of Faggots? Flaming Challenges to Masculinity, Objectification, and the Desire to Conform was an American Library Association Stonewall Honor Book. And Sycamore's novels include So Many Ways to Sleep Badly and Pulling Taffy, and her anthologies include Nobody Passes, Rejecting the Rules of Gender and Conformity, and That's Revolting, Queer Strategies for Resisting Assimilation. I think this is probably the most tame title she's ever had for a book. Please welcome Mattilda.
Thanks so much, Noelle. And thanks, everyone. And thank you. You know, some hosts at bookstores, they look at that title, why are, and then they're like, they move on to like the next part. So I'm glad that you're not afraid. Thanks for everyone for coming tonight in not just rain, but a downpour. So I love this full house. Thanks to all the brave souls here. And tonight I'll read from a chapter towards the end of the book. All you really need to know is that Sketchtasy takes place in 1995 in Boston. The narrator, Alexa, is a 21-year-old queen. And yeah, so I always like to say that whatever you need to do to take care of yourselves during the reading, please do. So if you need to laugh, cry, applaud, jump up and down, go to the bathroom, run outside for some air. Don't smoke, though. Anything but smoking is allowed. But I always like to say, the only bad audience is the dead audience, right? The audience that just sits completely still, totally silent, like we're all trained to, and then dies right in the middle. So I can tell that this is not going to be the dead audience. So thank you all for coming. Then, of course, there'll be time for questions, maybe some answers, some more questions, drama, devastation, extrapolation, explosion, and all sorts of extravagance. So, so thank you once again. So let's see. I'm going to get to the part. How's my voice on the microphone? We're feeling it? Okay, good. Like to hear that. Too sexy. Avery calls me up and says, Alexa, I figured it out. You figured what out? I figured it out, Alexa. I figured it out. Honey, you are coked out of your mind. Alexa, who isn't? But listen up. I know you're always talking about how everyone in Boston is totally apathetic, and I'm like the worst example. I mean, I don't even have a political bone in my body. I know I was a poli-sci major for like 10 minutes, but I didn't even know what was going on. I thought poli-sci was science. Alexa, there are so many problems, and I know you know, Alexa. What was I saying? Oh, I still don't fucking know what's going on, but I thought of something we can do together. Oh, maybe I shouldn't say it on the phone. Alexa, it's true. I have to wait at the haunted house for a few deliveries, but I'll tell you my idea later when I see you. I think you'll like it. I think you'll really like it. Really, I'm really sure, okay? Later. Avery and I are at Bertucci's, and she looks around to make sure no one's paying attention, and then says, "Listen, Alexa, listen. Remember when we went to Star Market last night to get contact lens solution?" "Yes, last night. That was last night." Okay, so I was looking around at everyone looking at you. Everyone. And no one. No one at all. No one was looking at me. You see what I mean? Not exactly. Alexa, don't play coy with me, coy decoy. You're the one who likes to call it bargain shopping. No one was looking at me. Get it? Oh, okay, yes, I get it. Bargain shopping realness. I knew it, Alexa, I knew it. And you're right about something else. I should smoke more pot. I didn't realize I could be so hungry. Even though there isn't any fucking cheese in this pizza, it's yummy. Almost as yummy as you. And here's my example. It's cold out, right? Really fucking freezing your ass off cold. So what do people need? People outside. People stuck the fuck outside in this fucking freezing cold. Sleeping bags, right? Usually, I'm so focused on my own bargain shopping, studying everyone's reactions while I yawn and pretend to be oh so relaxed. Wait, did I tell you how relaxed I am? Honey, I could almost fall asleep right here. Everyone looks at my hair, but then there's the moment when they look away, and that's when I liberate those $70 vitamins. But it's so much easier when all I have to do is take in the attention, bask in it, glow. Whenever someone glances in Avery's direction, I ask some idiotic question or act like I'm about to slip a hula hoop into my purse, and boom, all eyes are on me. 8 sleeping bags in one afternoon. We can't help adding up the prices on the labels just to see. Okay, goodbye evidence. Hello, homeless shelter. Let's just drop these off outside. Remember the unbelievable truth? Where in the beginning, 2 girls are lying in the grass looking up at the sky while talking to one another? And that's kind of how I feel in the car with Avery, doing another bump of coke. And this is our movie, shot from inside a cream-colored Mercedes. It's probably not called cream. Avery, what do they call this color? Breathe deep and let your head roll back and then step outside like you don't even notice. The camera's on you. Yes, you. Every store has plenty of mirrors, even if they're selling sporting goods in Alston, Cambridge, Brookline, and everybody knows mirrors are for runway, high level, undercover, stunway. Honey, what is all this gear for? Bug smearer, rain fearer, 40 degrees below zero, dream gear, hair smear, bug fear, right here, turn. Think about waving for the cameras, especially when they're playing Highway to Hell. Think, but don't look. Yawn again, turn, Avery's out the door. Pose, let the lights blend into your eyes, walk. Another bump? Of course, darling, of course. You always know how to provide. The good thing about the Coke cure is that it helps with my cough. No, seriously, just a little bump and I'm fine. Another bump and I'm even better. A third bump and the cough is practically gone. Or if not, what a perfect distraction. AIDS alert in aisle 4. Cameras ready, prepare to flash. Runway, runaway. Avery, you're right. You're right. This is fun. Fun for the whole family. Whose family? Brighter days, brighter days, brighter days. Wait, what am I making for dinner? Yes, dinner. Do you want to come over? Oh, probably not a good idea. I mean, not right at this moment. Why not at this moment? You don't want sugar daddy to see you with your bitchy boyfriend? I don't want him to see me with my bitchy boyfriend when we're both coked out of our minds. I am not coked out of my mind. I'm coked into my mind. Girl, that's brilliant. But wait, today's the day we get our test results. Here we are on Boylston, opening the door in the wind tunnel and then checking at the front desk, where the receptionist gives us that fake smile and then waves us into the waiting room dungeon. Clinics are so depressing. It's like they're just waiting for you to die. Why can't they at least play good music? Something with a beat, maybe a DJ and a dance floor. They could easily fit a disco ball over there in that corner by the dusty plastic flowers. What about real flowers? Even something cheap, carnations. What about carnations? What about art on the walls? I'm sure there are plenty of rich people who would be glad to donate art. Or if not, then give me a couple 20s and I'll go to the Goodwill to find some wacky glamour. Or at least paint the walls bright colors instead of this atrocious, faded, gray and tan wallpaper. We're here to take care of ourselves, not to fade into nothingness. What about velvet sofas and herbal tea and steamed vegetables and brown rice? And maybe something to read besides pamphlets about STDs. What if the clinic was like a cafe where you could hang out and gossip and cruise or even read a good book? There could be a library or free massage or acupuncture or hugs, right? What about hugs? Instead of hugs, we just get sterile beige carpet and hand-me-down office chairs and a few boring ads for safe sex. What about makeup lessons or a reading group? If no one wants to read, we could practice all Kevin O'Quinn's makeup tricks. I wouldn't mind practicing makeup tricks with a bunch of queens at the STD clinic. What about a DJing workshop? I would love a DJing workshop. Art supplies. What about art supplies? They call my number, and Avery's still holding my hand, and I'm thinking about colored pencils and crayons and magic markers and oil pastels. Or what about making collages? The clinic would be such a great place to make a collage. It wouldn't even cost anything. Everyone could just bring in their old magazines and cut and paste and get to know one another. It would be fun. Avery's squeezing my hand tighter. I can't believe she's 23, but she's never been tested before. They call my number again, and then I'm in another sterile room. This one feels like they sucked out all the air, and some blonde woman in a powder blue cardigan with pearly buttons asks me what I would do if I tested positive. I have nothing against powder blue cardigans. Especially not powder blue cardigans with pearly buttons. I mean, I have a lavender one just like that. But that strand of pearls around her neck, real pearls. Those pearls, I want to say. What are you trying to say with those pearls? How would you react if you tested positive? She asked me again. Honey, I'm thinking, I would jump off a bridge. Can you take me to the highest bridge? I need a ride. You don't drive? Then at least give me directions. I want to say that I would go out and do so many drugs that I wouldn't even know my name. My name is Luca. I live on the second floor. I live upstairs from you. Yes, I think you've seen me before. But instead I just say, I don't know. She asks me about my risks. I don't ask about hers. Is she going to give me my results? After she suggests condoms for oral sex, yeah, I already tried that. She finally looks down at the piece of paper and she says, you tested negative for HIV. Thank you for coming in today. Do you have any questions for me? back in the waiting room. Now I'm nervous waiting for Avery until he comes out with a smile. Can't believe how hot it is in here. I'm totally covered in sweat. We get to Avery's, and she pours a bunch of Coke on the mirror without even taking off her coat, snorts way too much, and then shakes her head back and forth and starts jumping up and down. She hands me the mirror, says, "Let me hold you while you do it. Come on, hurry up, catch up with me, and then I'll bend you over and fuck you over the sink." I thought you never wanted to have sex again. That was before. I wake up the next day singing, "I think I love you. What am I so afraid of? I'm afraid that there's no cure for..." What are the rest of the words? No cure for. Avery, do you know that song? Who sings it? "I think I love you. What am I so afraid of?" Yeah, that's the one. I'm just imitating you. The way it all blends together, one day and then the next, one store and then the next, one line and then the next. The day we wheel a whole shopping cart full of canned food out of Star Market, hello, food drive. And then the next Star Market, and the next. Honey, we're getting a tour of all the Star Markets. Who's the star now? That feeling in my head, where am I? That feeling when I'm sitting with Nate and he's speaking and I'm trying to pay attention. Oh, right, another cocktail, thank you. That feeling in my head, so warm and cool at the same time, blending these pills and powders and potions, and yes, that feeling in my head, hold me. The way my eyes can be blue, but really that's white and blue and a circle of green. Sparkly brown spots on the left. I never realized brown could sparkle. Is it really purple in disguise? Like the way the white of the eyes is the part that shines the most. And you never realize that from far away. Or the way skin is really all these little holes, some dry and some greasy even after the apricot facial scrub and oil-free moisturizer. It's never just smooth except from far away, and I guess that's why so many people wear so much makeup. But even the bags under my eyes can become pretty when I stare long enough and let everything blur. Look how my lower lip is bigger and puffier and redder than the upper lip. And now, our special guests for the night. Teeth. That's just the way you are. Teeth. We think of you as white, but that's only compared to night. So much closer to yellow, hello, unless you've been bleached, leached, and impeached. No, don't impeach my teeth. I swear they didn't mean to lie when they said they were light, bright, spite, fright, mighty, fighty, tighty, whitey, I swear. Really, stop looking for stains, okay? Stop pulling back skin to disguise structure. Focus on the way the water pours over your hands in little, tiny waterfalls. All this hot water for my hands. Oatmeal soap a massage until I'm ready to take out my contacts. Right, I'm taking out my contacts. And then, time for magical Marinol. Oh, yes. Avery rings the bell, and when I get to the door in my robe, he's standing there with sunflowers. What a great way to start the day. Then she reaches down and picks up a boombox. Where'd you get that boombox? I'm bringing back the 80s. Oh no, please not the 80s. Anything but the 80s. Even the 70s. I mean, you know how much I hate disco, but anything's better than Michael Jackson. Thank you for the flowers. They're beautiful. Okay, 1991. It was only 4 years ago, but wait until you hear this. You're beautiful. Too sexy. Avery wants to watch the sunset, and when we get to the esplanade, it's almost warm out. I mean, it's freezing, but at least there's no wind. Look at those pink clouds over there. Someone's finally lighting the Sitco sign on fire. Avery puts the boombox down and says, "Are you ready?" And she presses play. No way. The beat starts and I can't help it. I'm flinging myself into the air and around, falling to the ground and rolling in the frozen grass toward water, and then jumping across the paved part and back again for more space. Give her what? Give her the river, deliver, shiver my liver. And Avery's clapping and I'm throwing my arms everywhere. Hands flying up and back, head in every direction. Yes, there are a few tourists and joggers who look scared. Too sexy for my, too sexy for my, too sexy for my. And then I do the big kick in the air as high as possible, and I land with one leg straight out and the other crossed underneath, like I'm just sitting there so calmly. Avery comes over to fan me with her hand, and that's when I jump up and twist around her. Is this another mix? How many mixes are there? And there's that beat like one of those movie songs. Girl, where the hell did you find I'm Too Sexy anyway? Okay, here I go. Running down the esplanade, and Avery's cackling, and I start to twirl around and around until I'm dizzy enough that doing the falling over runway really is falling. Bending side to side and taking the tightrope into fight rope, light rope, blight rope, smash the glass and jump up and down delight rope. And Avery runs in front of me and I stop, turn, put my hand on her face, and then we turn around together. I'm holding onto her back like I could hold on forever. But then I push her aside and she laughs. And what is this mix? I don't remember this mix. And now I'm leaning back against Avery like a prop, or a wall, or a treasure, or the end of the line, or sustenance. Thank you. I got a little sweaty during that reading. Woo! Where's that? We need that towel. So this is the first reading of my West Coast book tour. So thanks for welcoming me. In 1 week, the next event will be at City Lights in San Francisco. Thank you for the towel, Noel. Isn't Noel such a great host, by the way? So feel free to tell your friends in San Francisco. Then I go up the coast, so I'll be Portland, Olympia, Seattle. I allegedly live in Seattle, so then I guess I go back there. The rain has already come here, so I'll get like 4 months of this, you know. What questions do people have? I'm open to everything, so whatever comes into your mind, let it out. Yes.
So I've been dancing with you, and I've seen you dance, and I'm just curious how you are able to translate your actual dances into the written page as well as you do, because when you're talking about your emotions and Alexa's actions, it's so realistic to dances that I've seen.
Thank you. That's wonderful. Yeah, I think for me when I write, voice is always the most important thing. And in the book, there are a lot of things that change, they change the voice, right? And one of those is dancing. And so I really wanted, like drugs obviously change the voice, right? Boston changes the voice. Queens vernacular changes the voice. Trauma changes the voice. Desire changes the voice. And so for me, I think it really is about cutting out anything that gets in the way of that. And so in writing the dancing, I really wanted to imagine the dancing to be right there. So I don't, and so like as if you're dancing, right? So when you dance, you don't tell, the viewer, oh, I'm about to start dancing. Like, oh my God, right? So it's like to feel that rhythm in the text, I think was the goal. And I think, I guess for me, I like my writing to sound spontaneous, to read spontaneous, but I do edit a lot. So like I probably did about 12 drafts of this book. And the editing is constantly like cutting out anything that gets in the way. So it's good to hear the dancing works, right? But really I think, it's about feeling it also and having that embodied feeling in the text itself. So yeah. Yes.
I know for so many ways to sleep badly. Didn't you write like a page a day? I always think of that. It's so inspiring to me. I'm always like, you can always write a book. You just write a page a day. It's like I hold on to it. And so I was wondering what your process was like for Sketchtasy. With how your process has changed between all your books.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, so with So Many Ways to Sleep Badly, it was actually a paragraph a day. So it's even, and that started actually, it was when I developed really debilitating chronic pain, and I couldn't write like I used to write. And so I thought, at first that was really paralyzing, and I was like, how am I going to live? Because writing is how I keep myself alive, really, and so far it's worked. And so at that time, and then I thought, well, I'm an experimental writer, so let me experiment. What can I do? I can write a sentence here and there. And so basically like a paragraph a day, maybe sometimes just 2 sentences, sometimes maybe 2 or 3 paragraphs. And after like 2 years, I was shocked that I had 400 pages. And at that point, I had never had 400 pages of anything, And so that was really liberating. And also I used that as a method, right? So in each paragraph, maybe like 12 different things might happen. There might be, are they happening right now? Are they in the narrative's head? Are they on NPR at the yoga studio? There's this impending war. There's San Francisco. There's, roaches and rats. There are people calling on the phone. And and that's the narrative, So the narrative is built through all of that fracturing. So with Sketchtasy, it was interesting when I started. So I started after I finished, or after I think, after I was done with the end of San Francisco. And I had lived in Boston at the same time period that the book takes place, and I always had stories from that time period that I would tell people, and they'd be like, oh, I love this story. But for me, I never thought, I was like, I don't know what, those are good stories, but do I want to write a book about that? I don't know. And then I was done, and I was like, well, they keep coming into my head, so let me just start. And so I started with my own memories of the time, but really quickly, I think the book shifted because the trauma came through. So it was like the trauma of living in Boston, a city rabidly afraid of difference, the trauma of living in a gay culture that magnified all the worst aspects of straight hypocrisy. So, racism, misogyny, homophobia, everything really. And Boston, that's true everywhere, but Boston is even more magnified. And also the trauma of that moment, 1995. And these are all, a lot of the characters are queens who are like 19, 20, 21, 22. They've all grown up with AIDS suffusing their desires and no way to imagine a way out. So it's not the generation that grew up and came of age in a sexually liberated time and then watched all their friends die. This is the next generation who grew up with only that to imagine, right? And so I think what happened is that came through really fast, but in this very queenie, flamboyant, like kind of narration, which is, that's the narration I live, right? But also, so I felt like that tension immediately, and I was like, how do I take this all the way? And so this book, in some ways, I wrote it more, in terms of my process, I do use voice activation software now, and that, people think, oh, that means you talk and it writes for you. So that's not true. What it really means is you have to integrate your writing into your speech. So if I talk to you like this, I'm like, blah, 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 blah. And then it will, let's say I say, oh, I'm here at Skylight Books. And on the screen it will say, I ate a sandwich. So you can't go back and edit that because you're like, I guess, what am I talking about, right? So you have to edit it in the moment. So for me, I mean, I've been doing it for a while now, like probably the last few books that I wrote with it. So it's kind of integrated into so it's kind of like I'm writing with my hands, but it's my voice that I'm using. And so yeah, I think, so in some ways it was more narrative than my other books, and I generally don't believe in plot. I'm always like, get that shit out of here, right? But something came through that was kind of like a plot, and I was like, well, I mean, again, if I'm an experimental writer, I need to like experiment and have this plot be there, right? And the other thing that happened is I created some characters that really in the beginning they were just there to show the hypocrisy of Boston. And actually Avery, the character I just read, that was a character that initially arose just to show like the absolute total absurdity, and then became something else. And so for me, it's like hypocrisy. Beneath hypocrisy, there's always something else, right? Sometimes it's just more hypocrisy, but it's like that's kind of what I'm getting at the book is what is beneath. Like the trauma is beneath. There are other things too. There's desire. There's a desire for connection. There's like, an imagination of something else. There is this feeling of being trapped, I think, for all the characters, but also what else is there, and what else happens in moments that may be gone, right around the corner, and what else is like, so kind of like unwinding the layers through the kind of the voice itself. Does that answer your question? Okay, good. Other questions? These are great. Yes.
Relating to the first question, no movement was really significant in the book, but I was also like house music became this really prominent, not so much like character, but this thing that like filled space between bodies and entered bodies. So I was wondering if you could speak more about that as this like sonic component to the book,
Mm-hmm.
also as like I don't know a queer aesthetic.
Yeah. Exactly, yes. Yeah, so the book takes place in gay club culture in Boston in 1995. And this is a culture where community is bonded by drugs, right? But what else goes along with the drugs is the music. The drugs, we see the obvious corruption in that, right? But also there is, in some ways, there is a liberating aspect of it because a lot of these characters don't have other options, for actually finding one another. The music, in some ways, is perhaps the most, there isn't like a dark side to music, at least not in my opinion, right? And so the music, I think, is like I said actually before in terms of the voice. That's another thing that shifts the voice. And so the music of that time period, especially like late night, bitch, queen, runway, house, is what like gives the book kind of like a rhythm, and that was another thing actually in writing the book. It's funny because some songs I put in the book that I totally remembered from that exact moment, and then later, the copy editor was like looking them up and was like, well, this song came out in 1997. And I was like, oh no. And because I'm using the lyrics also, they become, because in this culture, the lyrics of these songs become things that people say to one another, right? They become, what was this? I think it was It's Not Over, and so the people kept saying it, so I had to like take it out. And people are quoting lyrics, but also people, you don't know when they're quoting lyrics, when they're just saying it, and some of these songs like Camera's Ready, Prepare to Flash, that keeps coming up, and they also like become, in different contexts, they mean different things, right? Brighter Days was another one that keeps coming up, and so part of that for me is, it's giving the prose itself a kind of rhythm, and also showing a kind of rhythm that's beneath or inside like all of these lives. Because these are, most of the book, it's instead of the 9 to 5 world, it's like the 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. world, right? And so the characters, they basically in some ways are succeeding at living outside of that, work-a-day kind of experience. Although most of them have, definitely internalized, all of the violence of those other worlds that they're, trying to live outside of. But but yeah, in some ways, music is the one pure thing. I don't know if I had thought of that until this exact moment, but I think I would say that now. Yes.
This certainly isn't the only question I would want to ask, but it's just come to mind is somewhere between this sort of absurd, conservative moralizing about drugs and the polar opposite of that, which would be like the glamorization of drugs. Just in your own experiences, this is like I think you and I are contemporaries. Like
Mm-hmm.
same age, same place, etc. But like that's a world that I, for whatever reason, didn't jump into.
Uh-huh,
I
uh-huh.
was around it, but not in it.
Yeah.
And I'm curious what your takeaway is, or what your reflection is on it now, looking back. Like, again, like what your own impressions of the drug aspect were. Were they overall positive, negative,
Mm-hmm.
like just whatever your insights are? Like,
Yeah,
I'm
totally.
curious about.
Yeah, I'll talk about that in two ways. One, I'll talk about myself, and then I'll talk about the book. So in my own life, I think drugs saved my life. When I was like 18, 19, 20, 17, maybe like starting 14. Then, it's first, sorry, 14 to 20, and by drugs, I mean, initially it was like, cutting up Vibrant and taking it so I could possibly go to school. It's like, God, like, how am I going to deal, And then being like an anorexic teenager and like, okay, Vibrant, that's a good way to, stay alert, right? And it did in some ways follow that trajectory. And then it's alcohol, and then it's pot, and then it's, ecstasy, and then it's coke, and then, and in different cities, different things. Like crystal was really the worst one for me. But I think, so for me, I think that time period, it really was, and drugs were, I really believed in them. I was like, because they had given me a way to escape. And growing up in a world, I sexually abused my father, like growing up in a world that kind of wants you to die or disappear, and internalizing all that, and also being I was like a very like overachiever, kind of like high school student, and I wanted to get the fuck away. Drugs were like, get out, right? It wasn't like, help me do something. It was like, help me escape. I just wanted to be like flying diagonally backwards into the air, and like someone's talking to me and I'm like, yes. And I think it's somewhere around 20, it changed and drugs became a trap, And I think the first thing for me really, it was crystal in San Francisco. Yeah, that was like 19. It was like, because I originally started doing crystal because I was like, the music was so bad at the clubs until like 6 a.m. And it got really good at 6 a.m. And so crystal's a great drug to do so you can start dancing at 6 a.m., right? And I was like, but like that drug wrecked me. I mean, I could just do 2 bumps and it would destroy my life. Like destroy. I would be like a sheet of paper. Like someone had just ripped me apart, when I crashed. And so that was the first window for me. I was like, oh, it's not just something beautiful. It wasn't beautiful anymore. And it was a trap. And then I think, but it was also a habit. So there were different times where I was like, I need to get out of this, right? And then I would kind of get out, and then I would get trapped by something else, be like Coke, And for me, I think drugs, I had a really strong survival mechanism. And also I never wanted to do them to be creative. And that was good for me. I mean, because I saw people who would be like, oh my God, I can't write, or do, be a more actually performance. People in performance, they were, like couldn't do anything, basically. And I was like, I can't be like that. So that sort of, in some ways that saved me, because I was like, I could sense it a little bit. And then I was like, okay, I have to, stop in some ways. But I mean, it took a while, and but it became a trap, I think probably for a decade. Well, actually, that's not true, because I guess I did. It felt like a decade, but I did stop doing. I haven't done drugs, in like I don't know, 15 years or something, and or more, I guess. Yeah, like 15 or 16 years, 16 years. But so for me, but it was like, yeah. So for me, I like recognized the trap, and then it took another 5 years to get out of it. And actually, writing the book was really interesting because people ask about that, like some people just assume I was high when I wrote it, right? But other people are like, what was it like? For me, it was great because I was high, from writing it, so I could feel those sensations, but I was not on drugs. And I was like, I loved it, I mean, it was a little disorienting when I was like really in it, because I'd be like, oh, wait a second, okay, 2015, I'm not in Boston, I'm not, And in the book, I think drugs, like I said, I think drugs are the way that community is formed. And it's a very corrupt community, but it is actually the way that these queens find intimacy. It's the way that they break out of their shells and are, because this is a world where, they just walk out of the house and people are saying, I'm going to kill you, throwing bricks at them, like, they're on the subway, and, people are just screaming at them, I'm going to kill you, and everyone's just sitting there like nothing happened, and they're in a gay culture where, because they're queens, they're garbage, they're worthless pieces of trash that need to be disposed of. And so drugs help them to not have to deal with that, and so it does a lot, so, but they also become a trap, because because of that. So drugs are more of the more you get from them, the more of a trap they are, right? There are people who do drugs and they're like, oh, that was fun, whatever. So that's a person who can probably do drugs, right? Like, maybe. But in this book, yeah, I think so. And I think so. What becomes a way to escape trauma actually becomes something that compounds the trauma. But I think for me in the book, I really wanted to. I think it is possible that drugs are the best thing that some of these characters have. And I want that possibility to be open, even if it may also be destroying their lives, So I think I wanted to show both at the same time without imposing a hierarchy over like what is good and what is bad. Thank you. Other questions? Yes. Oh, yes. Thank you. Yeah, there's a scene in the book where Alexa and another character, Polly, they go to watch the Larry Clark movie Kids. And it's actually at a very dramatic time in the book. And they're like, oh, let's go somewhere for light entertainment. And instead they see Kids, right? And so, yeah, luckily I did watch it again so that I could first I wrote it without watching again, and then I wrote it while watching it a few times I did, so that I could get like some exact details and sort of sense into the reactions. In the book, there are a couple different moments, like Todd Haynes is safe. They also go to that, to watch that. They're different. I wanted to put, things that were happening in that moment, like into the book in real time, and also things that have happened, just before. Like they read Rebecca Brown's The Gifts of the Body, which came out in '95. David Wojnarowicz, they read Memories That Smell Like Gasoline, which came out a few years before. And also in some ways, those moments for me, in the book, there are ways that, because Alexa, the narrator, she's a scathing, she has a scathing radical queer analysis in a world where there's no possibility to actualize that. There is nothing. And so she's trying to make like club culture into that. And so where was I going with that? Oh, and so I think in some ways, there are times when, like, reading The Gifts of the Body or watching Safe, where she's able to access her emotions in a way that she can't access in her everyday life. So it's these works of art that bring her into her body in a certain way, and also offer, actually, I'm going to separate that from Kids for a second, but so let's say Safe or The Gifts of the Body or Memories That Smell Like Gasoline, those offer her a kind of kinship with like an older queer generation that she doesn't have. And Kids, of course, is more of it compounds the trauma, because it's a movie that, lives for, making, in this case, Chloe Sevigny, just go through everything and fall apart. And I'm glad that you agree with that moment, because there is this moment where suddenly Chloe Sevigny's hair is shorter and her makeup is better, and I was like, so I put that into the, into the narrative. So, yeah. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think speaking for myself, I would say community is about finding a way to build something that challenges the violence of the status quo, in the ruins of the world around us. So finding a way to live with and lust for and take care of one another that's not predicated on the violence that all of us have learned growing up. I mean, there's no exception. Like even people who grew up in non-traditional families that offered some sort of, safety net, which is a small percentage, right? But even those people, they live in the world too, right? And so there is always going to be that suffocating violence of just everyday survival. And so I think for me, community is about going beyond. One, it is surviving and like finding other people who are struggling in the same way that you are, and building space for people who are on the fringe. So building space for people who are marginalized. And that means both in the larger world and in our own world. So like, we can create like a radical queer, utopia in certain spaces. And to me, that's not enough, right? Because like we have to also be engaging with the larger world. And we also have to be engaging with ourselves. So when we see our so-called radical queer utopia has the same kind of hierarchical kinds of violence as the world around us, it's time to dismantle that, right, and challenge that violence. So that's what I would say. In the book, I think there's definitely not the possibility for those, ideals. That's already like off the table in a certain way. So Alexa may imagine that. It may be what she wants, but it's there. And it's that I really wanted in writing this book, because a lot of my work is about those queer worlds that we're talking about and their hypocrisy as well. This book is really about having that analysis, but being stuck in something else, that is a lot closer to a more mainstream gay culture that magnifies all the worst aspects in a really blatant way. So yeah, thank you. Other questions? Yes. One more question, and then we'll have time for signing. For private questions, you can come up with private questions. And just as important, hugs. So if anyone wants a hug, I've got it. You just come up to me and say, I want a hug, and I've got it, okay? So who's going to ask the final question for this evening? Oh, the next book is called The Freezer Door. It's about desire and its impossibility through the lens of gentrification, the hypocritical allure of gay male sexual culture, the tyranny of the suburban imagination over city life, the dream of the city as a place where you can find everything and everyone that you never imagined, and whether that's still possible. It's about Seattle, and it's about me. So thank you so much for coming. I'll be here.
You've been listening to the Skylight Books author reading series. Don't forget, you can listen to this and all of our other great podcasts at skylightbooks.com. Thanks again for stopping by, and we hope to see you soon.